welcome to the Gamble Montessori School Garden. My name's Mrs. Dudley, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can start your own experiment at home with what you have in your kitchen. All right, let's get started. The standards that we're going to address today include the next generation science standards on plant reproduction, growth, and the development of organisms. All right, guys, I'm really excited to be with you here in the Gamble Gator Garden, and I'm going to talk to you about growing some seeds, thinking about how plants reproduce, and all of the different genetic combinations that you can have when you're talking about plants. So in order to make a successful seed experiment go, you are going to need a few supplies. You can find a lot of these in your kitchen, and if you are having someone make trips to the grocery store, then you'll also be able to find a lot of these items there. All right, so first we're going to need somewhere to plant our seeds. So I have a couple of pots here that I use to plant seeds. But if you don't have those, you can always just go and get a plastic cup, any kind of container that you can think of. As long as it can hold a little bit of soil and a little bit of water, then you'll be all right for starting your project. If you do decide to use a cup like this, then you want to make a hole in the bottom. So I just took a pair of scissors and very carefully poked a little hole. You want to have somewhere for the water to drain out. There aren't holes in these, but it's because they're already kind of cloth-like. They're a little bit like mesh. So when you put water in one of these, then the water will have a place to go. All right, so I've got my cups. And the next thing I'm going to need is some soil. So this is some organic potting soil. I don't have a lot of it because I don't need that much, but it's nice and moist and it's ready to go. So I've got my soil. And then what am I missing? That's right, the seeds. Now you can get seeds from lots of different places. You can of course buy them at the store. You could order them online. You could also think a little bit more creatively about how you can get some seeds. Now, I had some squash for dinner last night, and inside my squash, there were lots of seeds, lots and lots of seeds. I've got probably 50 or 60 squash seeds here from my butternut squash. These are great. They can be planted, and so these are the seeds that we're going to work with today. It's a little too early to plant squash seeds outside in your garden, so you do want to start them in a pot inside, and then you can set them out after Mother's Day. If you want to grow something outside right now, you want to grow something that can handle a little bit of a chill. So a couple of good examples for that are lettuce and broccoli. These seeds are very small. Plants make different seeds of all shapes and sizes. They are spread around by lots of different animals, wind, water. So the seed that the plant creates really depends on the environmental conditions that that plant is growing in and how that plant can be successful. Over eons of natural selection, these plants have been able to produce the right seed for the right place. So make sure that you're really paying attention to your seeds. The seeds from the squash are pretty big, pretty easy to see. Let's open up one of these packages and take a look inside and see how big these seeds are. I'm going to open my lettuce first. Oh my goodness, they're pretty teeny tiny. I don't even know if you guys can see those. You see how small? All right, so those little small seeds are going to be a little bit harder to plant, especially if you're planting with your family or younger siblings. One thing that I suggest that you do when you're planting these types of seeds is to make seed tape. If you want to know how to make seed tape, we're going to take a listen from one of our students who made a little video at home of her making seed tape for her garden. Take it away, Hannah. All right, Hannah, thank you so much for showing us how to make seed tape. Now, if your seeds are small, that's how I would plant your seeds. But if they're bigger, like these squash seeds, then we can go ahead and just work with them. I'm going to put these lettuce seeds away for now so we can focus on our squash. Now, I'm going to set up an experiment. And when you're setting up an experiment, you want to make sure that you have a hypothesis, you've made some observations, you have a way to record data, and then you're going to spend some time making a conclusion. When you're running your experiment, you want to be very careful about the variables that you're including. You want to have a limited number of variables. For example, if I planted squash seeds in these pots, and I put 2 seeds in each pot, I had the same amount of soil, and I gave the same amount of water, then my only variable might be where I put them. Say I put one inside a closet and one outside on my patio. Now that's the variable that I'm testing. So if they grow differently, I can say with confidence that it's probably because of the location where they're growing, since that's the only variable that tends to change. If I planted 5 seeds in here and 10 seeds in here, I gave this one water every day and this one only once a week, and I put this one outside and this one inside, it would be really, really hard to tell based on that experiment what was causing the differences in growth. So let's set up our experiment and put our soil in. Now, I don't mind getting my hands dirty. As the agriculture teacher over here at Gamble, I do that a lot. But if you would like to use gloves for this, you can. Remember, you can always wash your hands later. All right, I am very lightly patting down my soil. I don't want to crunch it down too hard or else the seed won't have any space to grow. It won't have an opportunity to get those roots into the soil. So make sure that it's not packed in there too tight. You do want enough soil in there to help the plant have a strong place to put down roots, but you don't want it to be overflowing. So you want a little bit of space at the top where water can sit when you water. So if you can see there, I've got just a little rim of space left. Think about using your pinky. Your pinky fingernail is just about 1/2 inch, all right? So if you put that in there, I've got that much space in between my soil and the top of my pot. I am good to go. All right, I've got my 2 pots, and so I'm ready to plant my seeds. When you think about planting seeds, I want you to think about what is going on inside this seed. There's a lot that we can't see. There are parts of the seed that help the plant grow before it reaches the point of being able to photosynthesize. And so inside each seed is a little packet of energy. That energy is used to create the first root and the first shoot for the plants. And then after that, when it breaks ground and it makes those leaves, then you're able to rely on photosynthesis. But it's not able to do that right away. So this seed is actually a living thing. And I want you to remember that. And we should treasure every seed. I don't want to waste the seeds by planting too many. These squash seeds will get big, like a squash. So it needs a lot of space to grow. I am going to put 2 seeds in each of my pots. I could probably just grow 1 plant in here, but not every seed will be viable, which means that not every seed will germinate and grow into a plant. So you want to plant 2. That way you've got a chance for at least one of them to grow. When you're planting a seed, you want to plant it just about twice its width, okay? I don't want to plant this seed all the way at the bottom of my pot. It doesn't have enough energy stored inside of it to make it to the top. So I want to plant it just about 2 widths of its length. So I'm going to again use my pinky fingernail. If I look, my seed's just about that size, which means I can do 2 more pinky depths to plant. So I'm going to make a little hole, my pinky, all right, and I'm going to put my seeds right in there. Now, most seeds will not start to grow until they are in darkness. And so this is the way that the plant has adapted to our environment to make sure that they're not able to just grow on the surface where they wouldn't be successful. So they really need to be able to be covered. So I'm going to cover them up, give it a little pat, and I'll do the exact same thing for this pot. I'll make my hole, cover it up. Okay, so now I'll put my seeds in a safe place. You want to keep them in a cool, dry place. You don't want your seeds to get wet. And I can save these seeds and I can plant them every year for a few years before they won't be able to grow anymore. So now I have my 2 pots. I'm ready to start my experiment. My soil is the same, my seeds are the same, my pots are the same. So if you're using cups, try to use the same cups if you're going to do a comparison experiment. And now we need to think about our variables. Am I going to give this one more water than this one? Am I going to put this one in a different place, maybe inside and this one's outside? That's up to you. So that's a cool way to run your own experiment. Just make sure that you're choosing one variable so that you can be sure when you're done that that was what was causing your growth difference. There's one more thing that's really helpful. Not totally necessary, but really helpful, especially if you're going to be starting a lot of plants. You want to make sure that you label them in some way. And so you can write on the pot. You can also get a couple of popsicle sticks and a pencil. So who remembers what I planted in here? That's right, squash. Butternut squash, to be exact. So I'm just going to write squash. All right, I'm going to put it on my popsicle stick, and I'm going to put it in my pot. Something that is very important to consider when you are growing seeds in pots is your water. I highly recommend that you dechlorinate your water before you use it on your plants. What is dechlorination? Well, the good news is it's really easy and you don't need any tools to do it. Our city does a really good job at keeping our water safe and clean. One way that they do that is by adding chlorine to our drinking water. Chlorine is a gas, and it does a lot of great things to keep our water safe, but it's not awesome for plants. Plants do not need chlorine. And so if you want to remove the chlorine from your water, just fill up a container and then let it sit overnight. You'll see little bubbles coming up in the water, and that's the chlorine gas escaping. So if you're going to use water from your tap to water your plants, then you want to make sure you dechlorinate it. Another way that you could get water is from the sky. So if you can collect rainwater in a rain barrel or in a bucket or a container that you put outside, then you can water your plants with that rainwater, and it will make them very, very happy and grow very strong. Now, if you're going to put water in these pots and they are porous, the water is going to come out. Something that you can do to help with this is to just get a container or a plate to put them on. This is just a regular kitchen plate. And before I water my plants, I can put them on this, and then when the water seeps out of the pots, it will be contained in here. And no one will get upset about me getting water all over. You definitely want to find a good place to do your watering. You don't need to water every day. You only need to water when your plants are dry. A question that I get all the time is, how often should I water? And honestly, there's not one right answer for that question. You need to look at your plants and make observations. If the soil is dry, then they could use a drink. When I water my plants, I water them all the way through. I put water in until I see water coming out of the bottom, and then I know that the whole pot with all the soil in it has gotten some water. I will wait then several days to water again. So make sure that when you're watering, you think about all of the components that are included in that. A safe place to water, where you're not going to have spillage. Also, that your water isn't going to hurt your plants. After setting up your experiment, it's really important to think about how you're going to keep track of the growth that you're seeing and how you're going to record that data. Data is so important. Data is how we know what worked and what didn't. Data is how we tell the story of our experiment. Your data can come in many forms. You can measure using a ruler. My plant is as big as my finger today, if you don't have a ruler at home. Maybe you're also taking pictures on your phone and you're keeping a photo journal. You could think about writing down and drawing what you're seeing. This is one example of a journal that you can use. And it's really simple. It just asks that you put in the date, notes, and a little drawing of your plant. So that's a really great way to keep data. But you can get creative. If you put your plant outside, then you'll also want to record the weather data. If it rains a lot one day and then is dry the next, it would be important to know that. Say we had a tornado come through and all your plants fell on the ground and got knocked over. You didn't fail. That's all part of the experiment. Keeping track of those records, including that data, is very important. And every time we do that, we learn. So I really encourage you to find a good way to keep track of your data so that you can look past over your whole experiment and realize maybe some reasons why what's happening is happening. When you make your conclusions at the end of your experiment and you present your results, it's important to have those records to come back to so that people, when they ask questions, well, why did it do that? What happened on this day? You've got all that to show them. I planted squash seeds today that I got from a squash that I got from the grocery store for dinner. And instead of throwing those seeds away, I decided to plant them. I would like to encourage you to plant some seeds from your own kitchen table. An apple, an avocado. Think about ways that you can use what's around you.
Hello, my name's Abby Streetman, and I'm a teacher at Clark Montessori. If you choose to save seeds from produce that you admire or like, then you're choosing what genetics to pass on to the next generation. So, for example, by saving these lemon seeds, I'm choosing a lemon that is a bright yellow color, pretty bitter, and smaller in size. But if I wasn't interested in those characteristics, I could choose seeds for a different variety and buy and plant those again instead. But I really like this kind, so I'm going to plant these. This is a kale plant that I've had in the garden for almost 2 years now, and it even survived and produced leafy greens throughout the whole winter. As you can see, it's now produced flowers, and those flowers will soon produce seeds. I will then let those seeds fall into the garden, and so then I will have more kale plants.
Think about what's around you. To start an experiment, do some explorations, and have an adventure. What I encourage you to do with this information is to think outside the box. We're sheltering in place right now, which means that we can garden in place. We can think of ways that we can nurture our environment, both indoor and outdoor, and we can start to really pay attention to the plants that are around us. Not only do they give us food, but they also provide opportunities for medicines, and it's really good to be outside and get some vitamin D. It makes you feel better and stay healthy. I want to make sure that you know that I encourage you to practice social distancing. And so if you are working outside in your front yard or in a community garden, please be sure to give people that space and always check in to make sure that you have parent permission before going outside. Well, all right, there you have it. I hope you guys have a great time gardening at home, and we really look forward to seeing you back in school soon. This is Mrs. Dudley, Gamble Montessori, FFA agriculture teacher, signing off.